What happens to a human being when you simply stop sleeping? Not cutting back to 6 hours, not pulling one rough all-nighter before a deadline. What happens when a person stays awake continuously for 11 straight days without a single moment of sleep? In 1964, a 17-year-old high school student named Randy Gardner decided to find out. And what happened to his body and his mind over those 264 hours remains one of the most disturbing and revealing experiments in the entire history of sleep science. It started, remarkably, as a high school science fair project. Gardner, with the assistance of two dedicated classmates and eventually a Stanford University sleep researcher named William Dement, who caught wind of the attempt, set out to break the documented world record for the longest period of sustained wakefulness. The rules were strict. No stimulants of any kind, no caffeine, no amphetamines, no drugs whatsoever. Just raw, stubborn, teenage willpower against the most fundamental biological drive in the human body. The first 24 hours were deceptively easy. Gardner felt fine, alert, lucid, focused, maybe a touch tired around the edges, but nothing dramatic. He could hold conversations, play basketball, function essentially normally. Sleep deprivation, it seemed, was not so bad. He was wrong. By hour 36, the first cracks appeared. His eyes stopped focusing properly. He became irritable, snapping at people for minor things. Simple short-term memory tasks that should have taken seconds started taking painfully long minutes. He would lose his train of thought mid-sentence and stare blankly, trying to remember what he had just been saying. By day 2, his motor coordination deteriorated noticeably. His hands were clumsy. He stumbled while walking. Basic physical tasks required intense concentration. By day 3, his mood had become volatile and unpredictable. He would oscillate between giddy euphoria and dark irritability within minutes. And then something new began. He started experiencing microsleeps, brief episodes lasting fractions of a second to a few seconds, where his brain would essentially shut itself off and reboot without his knowledge or consent. His eyes were open. He appeared awake. But his brain had temporarily gone offline. He was falling asleep involuntarily, over and over, with his eyes wide open, and he did not even know it was happening. Day 4 brought the first hallucination. Gardner reported seeing thick fog rolling through the room that was not there. He became briefly but genuinely paranoid, suddenly suspicious that his friends were working against him, conspiring to sabotage his attempt. His speech began to slur. Words came out in the wrong order. He had difficulty forming grammatically complete sentences. His short-term memory was essentially non-functional. He could begin a thought and completely forget what he was talking about before reaching the end of the sentence. By day 6, Gardner's cognitive symptoms had become severe enough that they resembled advanced Alzheimer's disease. He could not form new memories reliably. He was disoriented about where he was and what day it was. His personality had noticeably changed. Family and friends reported that he seemed like a fundamentally different person from the cheerful, sharp teenager who had started this experiment less than a week earlier. Days 7 through 9 were a progressive descent into what can only be described as a cognitive wasteland. Gardner experienced vivid and elaborate hallucinations on a regular basis. At one point, he became convinced he was a famous professional football player. He saw things moving and crawling on surfaces that were completely bare. His body temperature fluctuated wildly without explanation. His reaction time became so catastrophically slow that he could barely catch a ball thrown gently to him from a few feet away. And yet, here is the genuinely strange and somewhat reassuring part of this story. Despite 11 days of total sleep deprivation and the severe cognitive and perceptual breakdown it caused, Gardner did not appear to develop any permanent physical damage that researchers could detect. When he finally went to sleep after 264 consecutive waking hours, he slept for 14 hours and 40 minutes. Not the days or weeks you might expect, just 14 hours. He woke up groggy and disoriented, but essentially himself again. Within 2 to 3 days, he reported feeling completely back to normal. So what is going on? Why does the human brain deteriorate so catastrophically and so quickly without sleep, yet seem to recover so fully and so rapidly once sleep is restored? Modern neuroscience has revealed something remarkable.
Sleep serves a critical, irreplaceable cleaning function for the brain.
During the deepest stages of sleep, your brain activates what researchers call the glymphatic system, a specialized waste removal network of channels that flushes out toxic proteins and metabolic byproducts that accumulate in your brain tissue during every waking hour. One of the most significant of those toxic proteins is beta amyloid, the exact same protein that accumulates in the brains of Alzheimer's patients and is believed to play a central role in the disease's progression. Without sleep, this toxic waste builds up relentlessly, hour after hour, literally poisoning your neurons. Your brain does not start malfunctioning because it is tired in some vague, general sense. It malfunctions because it is drowning in its own metabolic waste products. Sleep is the brain's janitorial service, and without it, the garbage piles up until the system crashes. Recent large-scale studies have driven this point home with alarming clarity. Chronic sleep deprivation, even the kind that millions of people consider normal, getting just 6 hours a night instead of the recommended 7 to 9, dramatically increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, clinical depression, anxiety disorders, weakened immune function, and yes, Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. Every single major disease that is currently killing people in developed nations has strong, statistically significant links to insufficient sleep. You spend roughly a third of your life unconscious, and that is not a design flaw. That is not wasted time. That is the single most critical maintenance process your body performs. Sleep is the feature that keeps you alive and keeps your brain functioning. If you found this as fascinating and alarming as I did, subscribe. Your brain will thank you for it.